Hello, we are coping a conversation today with Keith Forsyth and Scott and I, co-hosting this podcast. Welcome, and as always, we go live on Tuesdays at 6 in the evening Pacific time. So if you are watching us in Central Time or Eastern Time, please adjust your viewing. Please post your comments. Today, we will be having an interesting conversation because more and more people are traveling and also planning retirements. And actually, that involves lots of logistics and planning and the difficult decisions, right, Keith?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so please share with us, first of all, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Keith. Retired military. I've been retired for a few years, and most recently, my wife and I decided to look at moving to a different country just to enjoy retirement a little bit more. And we found Panama. We found lots of different countries we researched, but I had been to Panama in the military years, decades ago, and had fond memories of it. So we decided to take a relocation tour and found a company out of Panama City and Panama Relocation Tours. And it was a bus trip from one side of the country to the other. And they showed us all the ins and outs of moving to Panama. And by the end of the week, we had already retained a lawyer and we had started the immigration process.
So, but first of all, why immigration? Why can't you just go for a few months and come back?
You
Immigration
can.
sounds more serious.
Yeah, well, there's benefits of becoming a resident of Panama. Now, any American can, just with their visa, can stay in Panama for 6 months at a time.
Okay.
Then you must leave for at least a month, and then you can go back for 6 more months. But you're a tourist. Not that you have any less rights, but you're still considered a tourist. If you want to live in Panama permanently or semi-permanently, it's better to become a resident. And there's multiple benefits, especially discounts on travel, doctors, pharmacy, shopping, restaurants, um, flights to other countries, up to 20%. So it's very beneficial to have a visa, a resident visa. And the kind of visa we obtained, there's many different kinds of visas. We obtained what they call a jubilado visa or a retirement visa. And you have to show a certain amount of income per month from a retirement source like Social Security or the military for us. I don't recall exactly what it is, but it's about $1,200 a month, 12 to 1,400 a month to show an income, and you can move to Panama.
Which is really not a lot of money for many Americans, right?
Exactly, and the key here is there's all kinds of people from Canada and the U.S. and even Europe moving to Panama, but one one segment of population is people who are living off just Social Security, but can't really make it here in the U.S. anymore. I mean, if you're making, say, 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 a month, I don't think there's anywhere in the U.S. you can actually live on that amount yourself, unless you may be renting a bedroom from somebody or living with family, of course. But if you go to Panama, you can move out to the country, have your own place, be able to get medical care, go out to restaurants, enjoy yourself, and live a decent life on well less than 2,000 a month.
So, moving to another country, Keith, involves also leaving behind many things that are who you are, and that involves your children, and that
Mhm.
involves your house. So, any thoughts on that? How did you process it?
That's true. Well, so this is our third year. We've had our resident visas for 3 years now, but we're only snowbirds at this point. So we're there for 6 months and come back for 6 months. And my daughter actually comes with me, although we don't see the grandchildren and our other children quite as often. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture of downtown, old Panama. Panama.
Very
One of
nice.
yes, the cathedral right behind the end of the picture. It's a beautiful
Wow.
picture, and that's exactly how it looks.
So did you walk here with
Oh,
Perry?
yeah. Every time we go, we come down the street.
Wow.
You can't quite see
And
it, but right past the street in front of the cathedral is a big square with a huge gazebo, and all the vendors will set up selling snowballs and ice cream, and they'll have uh, native, native, indigenous Panamanians doing exhibits of their dancing. There's all types of activity there. It's a wonderful place. This is a very touristy area, though. Also,
that's a fascinating place. I immediately noticed how clean it is, architecture. How old
yeah.
is the city, Keith?
This what you're seeing is called Casco Viejo or Old Panama, and it is the second Panama city, not to be confused with Panama Viejo, Old Panama, which was the first was the 18th century
Oh
Panama
my.
City, which was burnt by Blackbeard in the day, and they eventually moved it to this location or the location you had up because of its defense ability to defend it.
Hmm. So
And it is
was it a colony?
it was a colony. It was Spain's attempt, not attempt, they did to settle Central America. As
Yeah.
far as I know, Panama was actually, I want to say, the first landing spot in Central South America. They were already in the West Indies, and then they went to Panama and settled Panama. And it was a rocky start for quite some decades. Lots of attrition with personnel due to famine and disease, but they held out. And yeah, it's. I wish I would have been better prepared. I could have sent you some photos
Yeah.
of our travels.
Um,
Um,
Also, feel free to send it right away and then we will display it. But the question to you is that this coast and
uh-huh.
this town, it's not Panama City, correct?
No, it's not Panama City. No, this is somewhere along the coastline. I don't recognize the picture, but there's dozens and dozens of little coastal towns all along the coast, and they have a lot of coast. They have the
It,
Atlantic on one side and the Pacific on the other. It's a very narrow country, only roughly 30 miles wide. Even the length, you can drive the length of Panama in about 8 hours, roughly.
Oh my.
but so your major idea, so I would say the objective is finances, right? So that it is when you retire, it is more affordable, but also easy living. Is it all or something else?
Easy living, but better living. I
Yeah.
can't um, I can't begin to tell you how pleasant it is to be in Panama as a foreigner to experience the culture, the people. They're just they're amazing. It's
Yeah.
nothing I've like really. It's more equivalent to Europe, living in Europe, than living in the U.S.
Mm.
Mm.
People dress people dress very nice just to go out to the stores. People are very respectful. People mind their business. I've never seen any trouble on the streets of Panama. And when I'm in Panama, I walk 100 miles a month, and I've never experienced or seen anyone having an altercation, anyone being
Mm.
rude to somebody else. They're very helpful. You can be on a
Yeah.
corner lost, looking like you're lost, and somebody will most likely walk up and ask you if you need help. And they're sincere. They'll even show you where to go. Or if you're at the metro station using the subway and you don't understand how to access the subway, people will step up and show you how to use the ticket machine. They're
Mm.
just a nice
Yeah.
group of people, a wonderful culture. Oh, when we do take the subway, Terry's usually with me, my wife, and it's very common for other people to get up and give an older person their seat. And I don't know if you see that as much in the U.S.
Now,
That is
one
very
question
sad.
that always that comes up is, why would you want to leave the United States of America? You know, your home country, but there's any number of reasons, several which you've named: quality of life, uh, uh, different culture. I think we've seen shifts in U.S. culture that are less and less comfortable, less and less like the USA that we grew up in, right? That respect for one another, respect for older people. Yeah, those things are pretty significant. I can definitely understand that.
Living in Panama is really living as compared to here is more like existing, at least for me, for us. We live in a small country town, as you know, and it's cold or cool 8 months a year, 9 months a year. You have 3 really months of summer, if that. And even then, it's still cool in the morning and evening. In Panama, I wake up, it's 75 degrees when I wake up. And the highest it's going to get is 92. And if you're in the shade, which you usually are, 92 in Panama doesn't feel that bad at all. Here, I can walk downtown. We live in a small town, so we can walk, but there's very limited facilities. There's, a coffee shop, a grocery store. In Panama, I can get on the street and there's dozens and dozens of restaurants and cafes and bakeries, grocery stores. I can take an Uber across town for about $4, which would be unheard of here in the States.
Exactly.
Because there's a large expat population in Panama, not just Americans, Canadians, and Europeans, but English speaking. And we're all looking for the same thing: social opportunities. So there's pickleball opportunities, and there's coffee dates, and we have a game day. We go to a restaurant and have lunch, and then play board games for 3 hours. You go on sightseeing trips together. It's closer to being on a permanent vacation than really kind of more similar than what it is here, with having all the responsibility of taking care of a property and the inclement weather. You just do a lot less here. I more or less exist here, and when I go to Panama, I more so thrive.
You mentioned so many times when we were in Mexico at the same time when you were in Panama City. So we happened conversing for the reason that we found out that at the same time we had this stay in place alarm and emergency situations with Puerto Vallarta. And so Scott and I thought maybe we just should fly to Panama City to meet you there. But and that's how the whole interest to that country and why you were there. And so it just started a conversation. But as much as pleasant as it sounds, reality of living might be different. So do you expect any difficulties, for instance, with getting a house or, for instance, health issues? So let's first of all start with housing. Let's say you moved and then you mentioned that the housing cost is lower than here, or rental. It's probably be rental, correct?
Either or. So in Panama City, Panama City is different than the suburbs. Let's say Panama City, you're most likely going to live in a condo. Beautiful condos, state-of-the-art, world-class condominiums. They're all very strictly access controlled, so only residents can get in. For a condo in Panama City, on the low end, I've known people to get them as low as 1,000, but really realistically, 12 to 1,400 for a nice condo, and that will probably include water. And on the upper end, well, sky's the limit, but on the upper end, 22,000, 2,200, and you can get an exceptional condominium. I mean, just multiple pools, weight facilities. Well, all the condos have at least a pool and weight facility, but some will have basketball courts and racquetball courts, and also proximity or what part of town they're in. If you're close to the water, it's going to be a little bit more, but it's also going to be a little bit noisier. We stay in an area about a half mile, 3/4 mile off the coast called El Cangrejo, the Crab. And it's an old kind of bohemian mixed neighborhood. It's very, very comfortable. It reminds me of Europe so much with the boulevard. So pleasant. And you can get something there for about 1,400 easily, I think. And if you're going to buy, you should probably plan on about 200 to 300,000 in the city. Now, if you move out to the country, you can get a house. Most people will have houses in the country. You can get a house. I've seen people get houses for as less as $400 or $500 a month.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
and you can get a nice house for say $1,000 a month. I mean, a very nice house with a pool, and maybe with a little casita, which is another little guest house on the property. Now, of course, there are obviously more expensive homes, but on average, you can get a nice place in the country for $1,000 easily.
That's amazing.
So quality of life is vastly higher than what you would try to eke out here.
You know, there's a culture shock, of course. I mean, things are different. If you take your American expectations or Canadian expectations and move to Panama, you're going to have a hard time. But if you embrace the cultural change, like instead of if you live in the country, instead of a paved road, it may be a dirt road. All the houses, not the condos, but the houses will have bars on the windows. And that's alarming to some people because culturally, we're not used to that at all, to have bars on the door and windows. But to them, it's second nature. And it's just it's no different than us having a Ring doorbell camera on our front door. Instead of that, they use bars just to keep people honest.
What about
Keith,
language?
No, go ahead, please.
Language. It's Spanish, of course. Some Panamanians will speak English. If they can, they'll usually try and use it. But I have met very few expats who aren't actively taking Spanish. Everybody wants to learn Spanish to try and blend in. I'll never blend in Panama with the way I live. But I think it's very respectful to be able to speak Spanish while there as best I can. And they appreciate it. Sometimes it doesn't work out. We pull out a cell phone and use Google Translate. And sometimes I just have to walk away because I can't express what I want and it's just too difficult. That doesn't happen very often. In fact, usually, as I mentioned earlier, somebody will usually step in and ask if they can help you.
But so you mentioned Italian. Italian is because there are lots of people from Italy, or this is one of the languages officially recognized?
No, just Spanish.
Just Spanish. I thought you said Italian at one point.
No, Spanish. There are a lot of Italians. Actually, of all
that's
the Europeans, I think Italians are one of the larger populations moving to Panama. And I did meet, when I took a formal language school in Panama City, it was mostly European expats who were there with me. And they spoke perfect English and they were working on their Spanish. They already spoke 2 or 3 languages and they're working on Spanish. It was very humbling.
What language do you speak in addition to English?
Just English. And I'm learning Spanish.
Europe is a different world to us, where many people are bilingual or even trilingual just because of the nature of the geography, right? Whereas it's uncommon for Americans to be other than monolingual. Possibly Spanish.
Yeah, It's a shame. We spent 12 years in Europe, living in Germany, Italy, and Belgium, and it was always impressive how so many locals would speak at least two languages, if not three. And they would speak their home language, English, and very likely either French or German, depending on where we were.
So Keith,
Well,
I
Keith,
have a
did you
question.
find? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was going to ask. So your history of living in the military, your association with the military, you traveled a lot. You were assigned to various areas. I'm guessing that assisted you in finding it to be easier to relocate to another country in the world as opposed to coming back to the USA. And then how did your wife adapt to that, to the idea of being an expat?
Not as well as me. Of course, the whole family lived in Europe for so many years that we were all comfortable in living in different cultures. We enjoy living and experiencing different cultures. It's just fantastic. So being able to still do it after the military was huge. And she enjoys her time there. She enjoys the culture and the people, but the heat, the weather is a little bit much for her.
Yeah. So
Different
it's not
climate.
just absolutely. So it's a weather, it's a language. I want us to go back to the very beginning of your decision making, because it is related to retirement. So I put this question on the screen. Did you notice how differently Americans think about aging compared to other cultures? Is it any difference how we think about aging here?
There is. Of course, being in a city, everybody, a lot of people will walk all over. But the Americans that I've met, Americans and Canadians who have moved to Panama, everybody says the same thing, is that they've never been so active. They've never felt better. They've never lost so much weight without trying. They've never ate better than in their, as compared to their home countries. Everybody gets off, Many people will reduce their medications over time. It's so much less stress. And I'm sure there are some stressful things to deal with, especially with the government or trying to get utilities turned on, or dealing with immigration can be very challenging. But once you're set, it's very low stress environment, and people find that they're more active, they're healthier, they eat better than when they're in the States or Canada. I haven't met a single expat, and I've met a lot in Panama, who decided to go back because they lived better in their home country.
Yeah.
People will go back home, but it's usually for medical reasons or family sickness.
I just can't help, but want to share the saying about the difference of living in Europe and work and stress that you mentioned, Keith, and also life in America. So in Europe, people say we work to live. And then Americans, the lifestyle that we have here, the stress is actually we live to work. So Americans just go, work. And so, but in Europe, it's different. I'm not sure how it is in Russia now, but I know that in France, in Italy, in Spain, still life enjoyment matters more than being constantly busy and succeeding. And I'm so glad to see that younger generation actually discovers that new balance now, that it's not all about work, it's not about loyalty to a certain company. So that's very helpful. Thank you. But now another question now, when you come to the US, there is what cultural shock do you experience? The reason I want to ask that question is my son recently went to Kansas City, and he texted me, "Mom, I'm experiencing a cultural shock." I was not in Kansas City for, he says, like 6 years. And I said, oh, what happened? What changed? He says, that's a problem. Nothing changed. So in 6 years. So how would you answer this question? Did you or would you experience cultural shock in reverse when visiting the US again? Every
Yeah, I
time
can
you
see
come back.
the biggest thing is the culture within the US. It's very fragmented. You have, I mean, majority of people are just wonderful in the country. No matter where you go in the US, you will usually meet very wonderful people. But there's also a percentage of people who live on the outskirts of culture. And that's fine, it's their business. But often that will bleed into other people's lives in different ways. And with noise, the way people dress, the way people can be overly boisterous sometimes without giving consideration to who's around them, loud music. And of course, that's an American's right to do as they wish. But in Panama, and being Latino, it's very conservative as far as enjoy yourself, but don't violate other people's personal space. And I find myself not looking over my shoulder in Panama. I don't have to be overly concerned with where I'm walking. What I see young people all over Panama City, on the coast, downtown, in the parks, on the street, and they're all dressed nice, and they're all doing things you would hope that young people would be doing, talking, dancing. Nothing's loud, no cursing, no violence. It's an environment where you can feel comfortable and at peace without having your internal security go up. Do I need to be concerned about those people over there? What are they doing over there? In Panama, it's not an issue. It's very pleasant.
It's very interesting because here in America, the idioms I've learned among them was one exactly about how you assimilate in a new community. And so that's what I started even calling myself every time we move somewhere, a new kid in the block, like you're not accepted. You're not looked at as equal. And what I've learned from my experience personally, that it takes at least 5 years until you at least consider to have a right to voice something. Luckily, I'm a pastor, so I have a microphone. So, but overall, if it comes to daily things or problems, you will be always kind of pointed at your place, like you don't know what you're talking about. How is that in for expatriates, for example? How hard it is to assimilate, because it's one thing you visit and you stay 6 months, but then it's a totally different thing if you move. Is it different?
Yes and no. Yes, first it's key if you speak Spanish. If you speak Spanish, even remotely well, you're going to be able to assimilate easier. I shouldn't say assimilate, because you're never really going to assimilate in Panama. You're always going to be an outsider, honestly. But with Panamanians, that doesn't really matter. In my opinion, Panama is more of a melting pot than the United States.
More even than, wow.
Yeah, more than the US, hands down. Panamanians welcome anybody in their country. If whether, no matter what color you are, what religion you are, I've never seen a problem. If I remember, in Panama, it's the largest concentration of Jewish population. And
no kidding. Oh my.
South America is in Panama, and everybody gets along fine. There's Muslims, there's West Caribbeans, there's a huge Chinese population, in Panama that dates back to the Panama Canal and prior. And everybody gets along fine. There's never any animosity about any obvious racism, at least. No, it's a pleasure. But as far as being an expat, especially just getting my visa, I would never really assimilate. I'll always be looked at as an outsider, and that's fine. But I'm treated perfectly fine,
With
like
respect.
anyone else.
Yeah.
Of course, now
Okay.
also being and looking at me, I could be European, I could be Canadian, I could be American until I open my mouth. Then they may narrow it down to being American. But unfortunately, and this isn't true, of course, but Panamanians will assume that if you're a foreigner, you have lots of money. So they will, especially if they're in business, they will always be very kind to you. Not that they wouldn't anyway, but they'll be very kind to you and be very helpful. It makes you feel very nice, but they're assuming you have some type of money. And going back, you could have, I've met millionaires in Panama, and I've met people living off Social Security. So there's all types of income levels in Panama.
Interesting that when people, like you said, you met millionaires and you've met people who live on Social Security. Do those people who are having sources more than those who are on the Social Security, do they shine that they are rich, or they're kind of respectful to the overall balance that between people who no, not like in Russia.
Flaunting wealth. Yeah.
Yeah, there are housing areas in Panama City where there are gated communities and they're $500,000 houses. And I don't think I've met any of those people. But I've met people who live in condos close to the coast and around where we live, which eventually I found out that they were wealthy and they act like anybody else. And they mingle with the same people who are living on Social Security, and they'll have a drink together at the bar while you're listening to live music. There isn't, when a conversation starts in Panama with expats, it doesn't ever include, so what did you do?
Interesting.
Never. It's how long have you been here? What have you learned? Where do you live? Because we want to learn from each other. You know, how long have you had your visa? Where have you traveled to? It's a chance to exchange information. It's never how many cars do you have?
Sure.
You know, what building do you live in the gated community? It's never a comparison type discussion. It's more of it's like when we were younger and children, people meeting. It's more akin to that kind of conversation, which is really nice because you get to know people instead of competing with people.
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
It actually answers my question I had prepared for you. Is the expat lifestyle actually socially connected or quietly isolated? From what I hear, it's not hard to reach out and strike a conversation and have a normal human relationship. But are those relationships deep, or they're just kind of on the surface, simply being polite because everybody knows that they are among other expats?
Both. When you first arrive in Panama, unless you have somebody you already know, it can be a little challenging to break into the expat circle.
Okay.
But if you go out and mingle, where it's common to see other expats and strike up a conversation, and someone will offer to include you into a WhatsApp group. WhatsApp is the major social media communication in Panama and lots of Latin America, from what I understand. And we have groups. And in Panama City, we have a WhatsApp group, and everybody shares information. There'll be invitations for group dinners. And then once you're in one group, it continues to grow into other groups. Then you see, oh, there's a pickleball group. I'm going to go check out pickleball. And then you're in the pickleball group. And then you're in the game group. And you're in the Thursday evening dinner group. And then some of those relationships, you'll meet somebody who you connect with. And then you're having coffee once a week. and having a deeper conversation with them, or visiting them and their family at their condo. So some relationships will remain superficial, where you see them once a week at a setting and not much more. And then other people you'll get along with, and you'll find that you're doing multiple things with them per week. It's not difficult to make friends or acquaintances in Panama. You just have to be patient. I'd say it's more difficult to make friends or acquaintances with Panamanians unless you speak Spanish.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
I don't know a lot of expats that have Panamanian friends. Some do. If they live in a condo, they have a Panamanian neighbor, but it's not as common as having expats as friends.
That's very important, and I think for our viewers and for our listeners, it's important to know that it's not without challenges still. As much as we maybe have an expectation that we just come, it's still, like I said, you're still a new kid in the block, right? So now, more philosophical question: how does it change your soul when you move to another country?
Hmm. Hmm.
I put it this way: does changing geography change
Yeah,
the soul?
I have become, when I'm in Panama, because I have less responsibility and I'm surrounded by beauty and tropical birds and the warm air and the palm trees, I find myself being more philosophical.
Yeah.
I have time to think deeper thoughts than I do when I'm here. When I'm in the States, I'm focused on house repairs, auto repairs, doing this or that, making errands, driving 20 minutes to go to the next town for shopping. In Panama, I have none of those responsibilities, so I have more time to reflect inward. And I keep a diary. I find myself, I don't, I've learned how to paint.
Did you lose the sound, or it's a pause?
As a pause.
So geography still makes some probably alterations, right?
Only philosophically. My soul, as far as, say, religion is concerned, is, I would say, equal. We found a wonderful church. There are many wonderful churches in Panama. I wouldn't say I've grown more. Even when I was in Panama, I continued to do Bible study with our home church through Zoom. Philosophically, I think deeper thoughts while in Panama, but religiously, I wouldn't say I'm any more religious or less religious when in Panama. I'm just more content with myself and
Sure.
at ease with life. I'm more allowing to allow things to happen as they come, as compared to here, where I'm often anticipation or expectation of what I have to do next. In Panama, life is just easier.
And that can provide an atmosphere for going a little deeper with less stress, less responsibility, more time to be introspective.
Yes, and I love it. I get to think deeper thoughts when I'm there.
Uh,
Why do things happen the way they do? Why am I here in the big scheme of things?
sure.
All these people, and of course, there's lots of poor people in Panama. I mean, it's a very much of a country of haves and have-nots. Not that it's right; it's never right, but it is. But even the people who are of lesser means, they still seem to really enjoy their life. They have very meaningful lives. Most people have a home to live in. Most people will have something to eat. These things aren't problems there as much as they are here.
Yeah.
In the city, I walk through the city and I will see homeless people, but I see more homeless people when I go to town of 30,000 people than I do in Panama City of 2 million people.
Very
Goodness.
interesting.
Yeah.
Which is really answering the question of I remember the study, Scott, we discussed it, and I think I even shared in some churches that the research was done on what is the happiest country in the world. And of course, people expect to answer like France or United States, and no, by no means. It's actually the third world countries where poverty is quite high, but people find a way, like what you said, through community, through getting together, dancing, listening to music, eating simple food, movement, that they are happier than people who live in a very, very high technology country where they work all the time, but they constantly miss something in their life, uprooting themselves. So, but since we are coming to the end of our podcast, I have another question to you. If you meet someone here in America when you visit, or you're still here, if someone who talk to you feels trapped in life, and nothing fits them any longer, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to consider visiting another country to get a different perspective on life. It doesn't have to be Panama. It could be lots of different countries. But visit another country to get a different perspective on life, especially a Central South American country where life is a little bit slower, a little bit kinder. As you said earlier, people in Latino countries very often work to live. They work hard when they work, but when it's time to enjoy themselves, they're very social people and very family-oriented people. And here, we live to work, and we get off of work and we go home and close the door and sit on the sofa and watch TV very often. And it's just a completely different lifestyle. You feel a person who goes to, say, Panama would find that they feel probably 15, 20 years younger by their surroundings.
Keith, this is a wonderful advice, and I agree totally with you. Because when people get disengaged with life around them, they do not see any more meaning, they cannot find the mission or application of their talents. It's a good advice. Thank you for that. To go and travel at least. Go to another country. But also, myself as an immigrant, I want to say something that my wish for you and for Terry, that when we meet again, like if you move and you emigrate, that the study shows, I'm all about studies, that immigrants actually become younger by 6-7 years. It's a research, and the reason for that they have to rely on other people in many ways. Like, for example, like even banking or buying a house, you have to talk to somebody, you have to be guided. And it puts us in a category of much younger people, like almost like youth or children. And that actually changes our immune system and change our mentality and psychology and rejuvenates us. So I wish you and Terry that you become 6-7 years younger even. You look both very fit, very youthful. But imagine in 2 years we meet you and you will be like, hoo-hoo, I'm 6 years younger even. And Terry is running around like a little girl. So that's amazing. And I'm truly happy for you. And I promise, Scott, that we will come and visit you. Because we about also think what is very hard very hard to not think of those questions, how to find the meaning and how to slow down, right, to protect your soul, to have the essence in your being that is protected from this rush lifestyle. So thank you so much, Keith. Anything you will wish to say before we say goodbye to our viewers in the end?
No, thank you for joining us. If you've ever thought about retiring in another country, pursue it while you can, while you're young, because time passes by quick. You never know what's going to happen.
Too true. Too true.
Too true. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye now.